Okay. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. We've got a really good set of speakers today. And just wanted to remind everybody of a couple of dates coming up that's pretty important. So June 9th, we got the public meeting at the city council about the trash fees. Some community members provided some envelopes and some forms if anybody's interested in filling those out to do the trash protest. We're just having more information about it. We got a QR code here in the corner where you can scan it on the website, serramesa.org, hot topics, and we've got everything covered. Anything you want to know about the trash fee. Not that we're supporting it one way or another, we just want to get the information out there so everybody's aware. June 16th, there's a meeting about ADUs at City Council. This one's really important. It's, I believe it's the last City Council meeting on this topic. So I encourage everybody to come. And again, serramesa.org, hot topics. That's where we've got all the information. Please sign up to our newsletter. Please go to the website, check everything out. Our webmaster does a great job of pushing out all the latest and greatest information in the area. Also subscribe to the Observer. That's our monthly newsletter. We've got all kinds of good information on there. A word puzzle that's really cool that everybody likes. Pictures of businesses in the area, all kinds of good information. So without further ado, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. And the Memorial Day was in Normandy a few days ago, and just to see that and think about everything that the service people give to our country. It's a really a sight to see. So I just want to take a second for everybody to kind of like breathe that in Memorial Day, what it means to us, how important it is to the country, and thank them for their service. Okay, with all that out of the way, I sent Officer Sal, I don't see him, so I'm not sure if he's going to make it today. So let's get ready to the first speaker. So Judy, here we are. There we are. The topics are the Mission Valley campus update and I'm
going to try to go without it. I'm sure I have a big enough mouth that you can hear me, but let me know if you can't, because that doesn't sound like it's working too well. Thank you all for coming and caring about our community. I'm Judy Mitchell, a board member on the Serra Mesa Community Council. And I do have two topics to discuss with you tonight. One is the ADU meeting that we had with the planning committee. The other is the new Mission Valley San Diego State campus. And in a moment, I will get to those, but I did want to mention thank you to Cindy. Cindy put together labeled envelopes and forms. The San Diego City is allowing people to submit an objection to the trash fees. If they get enough of these objections, there's a possibility they won't implement the fees. Any taxpayer in the city is allowed to submit these. They sent them out with the water bill, I believe it was, kind of hidden in the middle of the newsletter, so everybody thought it was junk mail. No return envelope. So Cindy put together these and we've been spreading them around town. Like Joe mentioned, the deadline is June 9th. They have to be in. Kind of like your credit card bills, they always seem to do it with a weekend right around the due date, so your mail gets late, but June 9th is the date, and here's some extra forms if you didn't send one in yet. One thing I did want to mention, the community councils sometimes work together on projects. We had the Allied Gardens group reach out to us. They were doing a donation program for Mother's Day. So we put together some care packages on behalf of the Serra Mesa community. They were delivered to Father Joe's to mothers that were staying there on Mother's Day. What they asked is if that we could possibly supply things like shampoo, conditioner, things that were sundry type items, but they were also hoping we might add something that gave them a little bit of something pretty, something fun, or maybe some kind of gift, and possibly slippers. So what we put together and something to put them in. So we put together these gift bags. They are drawstring top, and then they make a little backpack. So we delivered those to a group that was collecting them. It was a moving company that donated their time and their trucks. And they had them at different banks around the city where we dropped off the materials. And in each of these bags, we filled them with slippers of different sizes for each bag. And then some pretty items for 4th of July. They asked for maybe hair bows. So we had these. And then for something fun, we included toys. We have a group called the Regular Cut-Ups, and they make toys for charity. So we included all kinds of animals. For the moms, they received things like little bunnies or cats. And then for the kids, we had sharks and dragons. So we thought mom might like something. So when the kids said, "Mom, what's in that bag?" they had something for the children as well. So those were all delivered on Mother's Day, and I think they enjoyed them. So I just wanted to mention that. So to get on to San Diego State, you've all seen the big empty lots down there where they started construction, blew up the stadium, put in a new one, and then everything seemed to have stopped. Construction will begin on the new San Diego State Mission Valley campus in July. And it will be ongoing for anywhere from 5 years on before it's fully completed. But they will be putting in housing on that property. There will be 18 buildings, and you don't need to take any notes if you're interested in this detail, because we have a website that's been put together that you can follow with the ongoing progress. So this information will be out there for you, and we'll give you that website before I leave. There's 18 buildings with 4,600 residents will be built on the property. 10% of those will be affordable housing, and the affordable housing will be on site. So for those of you that don't know about that little inside comment, a lot of the inside comments come about from a lot of the construction that's gone on in San Diego in recent years. The developers are required to provide affordable housing, but they found a little loophole that there's no requirement for it to be on site. So they will get the contract, they will develop the low fund housing, but they'll put it somewhere that's not on that valuable property that they were given to build on, so, or purchased to build on. So San Diego State's campus will have on-site affordable housing. 10% of the units will be affordable, and they will be available to students, faculty, staff, and the public. There'll also be a retail space of 95,000 square feet of, quote, neighborhood serving businesses. Retail shops and business services. The information's not available yet as to what type of vendors we'll have or who will own the hotel that's also being built. There will be a hotel with 400 rooms, and it will be open to people coming for events at the stadium, and also people coming for the business sessions that will be going on. For those of you that aren't familiar with the new campus, they use the word campus, but it's really an innovative technology center. So the buildings are going to hold businesses collaborating with San Diego State to develop subjects such as biotech, life science, technology, defense, and the hospitality and tourism school for San Diego State. There are no public funds being used for the new campus. And San Diego State hopes with the revenue they will make with the businesses and such, they will be able to expand some of the opportunities for students and be able to add 15,000 more students to the campus, even though there will be no actual classrooms. So for those of you that were worried about trying to go by San Diego State's new campus down the hill here, like at 8 o'clock in the morning when classes are starting, there will be no classes held on the new, quote, campus. There will be 1.6 million square feet of academic research and innovative facilities. And they are now partnering with businesses around San Diego to join with them in programs that they will be offering for graduate and postgraduate students to go on from their classes, work down in that environment and expand their studies. So we'll see how that goes. There is a website. Cindy has posted it to, you said the computer.
Which website? This website?
Yes. So right now, if you go into San Diego State, sdsu.edu/newsletter, you can sign up and stay informed about every step of the new campus building as it goes on. Also, Snapdragon Stadium is on the San Diego State property, and there is another website that you can sign up at Snapdragon, and they will notify you of events that are happening. So if you're heading out somewhere and you don't want to go down the hill because there's a game, you can get notified. They did send out, and that's this one. They did send out an update the other day that they were going to have military planes doing a flyby Saturday and Sunday for the soccer games. But I was pleased to see, even though they sent that out a week ago, they decided against that. I think they think the neighborhood had enough planes flying kind of close. So they did cancel the flyby. So that was courteous of them. But if you sign up for the Snapdragon newsletter, they will let you know where all the games are going to be, what days. And there's 2 different spots on that sign up. You can sign up just to be informed of events like traffic expected, but you can also sign up to get updates on the events themselves, like what the event is about, ticket information, that kind of thing. So you can sign up for one or both. Okay, so that brings me to our next topic
We didn't get a date on completion
for the campus.
for the businesses, the shops.
Their original estimate was it could be 10 to 15 years from start to finish. But it's been 5 years since that announcement. So that takes 5 off that. Still looking at a long time. Yeah, but nothing's happened for quite a while. And when I'm finished here in a few minutes, MTS is going to be doing a presentation for you about some involvement they're going to have with the community on MTS services. I would like to mention that part of San Diego State's plan, because they are tired of us bragging them about it, is that we will get trolley parking back. So I'm going to hold them to that. I am the liaison between the Serra Mesa community and the San Diego State campus. And as many of you know, once they started construction, the parking went away. There is some parking now that you pay for, but it's a long walk to the trolley. And it's impossible for seniors and disabled folks. So they're promising to improve that. And just so you know, when Brent gets up to talk about MTS, MTS runs the trolley. When you get off the trolley, you go down the stairs. The minute you step off the landing, San Diego State owns everything from there out on that campus and that site. So at San Diego State, I need to work with to make sure we get our parking. I just mentioned that so we don't start yelling at Brent to, where's my parking? Okay, so that takes us to my last topic, and that is ADUs. Sure.
They have a plan for it. Did they give you a timeline on that?
For
The park.
soon. But I have now found a new contact. He is I've been working with the president's office on most of my information. I now have access to the head of transportation for San Diego State. So he'll be getting a call from me next week.
Update on the paving of the parking lot?
No, we really don't have any updates on the actual construction other than it's finally going to start. Like I said, we don't know the businesses yet that are going to be in there. I have certain taco stands I'm hoping we might get, but we'll see. And we don't know who's going to own the hotel either. But San Diego State does believe they will get enough revenue from the property that it will return the money to the campus and they'll end up not having paid out. It'll come back. They're also expecting it to bring in, I believe it's $21 million to the city in tax revenue between the hotels, the facilities, and the property taxes of the people that buy the homes down there. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, our next topic is ADUs. That is additional dwelling units. That is a very hot topic right now. ADUs, I'm guessing, were designed as a wonderful idea to give more places for people to live in San Diego. I think the original idea may have been that you could put an additional dwelling unit in your backyard. So for example, if your children could not afford to stay in San Diego when they grew up, they could move and back there, or maybe parents. I think the idea originally was a lot of people thought their families would move in the back unit. What has ended up happening is developers have been purchasing the property. So for example, when you see a for sale sign in your neighborhood, next thing you know, it's sold. Next thing you know, it's torn down. And then all of a sudden there's an apartment complex right behind the house that was a tiny little house. So we are trying to do something, citizens, I mean, about what ADUs have turned into. We all agree that we need housing in San Diego. But what has happened has become a monstrous nightmare for many people. So the city council has been asked to rein in on some of the development. One of the comments made is that that would cause trouble with us with the Attorney General's office because we have requirements to meet growth opportunities. So the city council asked the planning group, planning committee, to come up with some ideas on some possible restrictions that they may consider on what's happening with the ADUs. So on May 9th, there was a meeting held down at the City Council Administration Building, and public were invited to speak. Cindy did a great job of doing a one-page summary of the issue, put it out on email, invited people to send an email with their opinion or to attend the meeting. One of the problems that frustrated us is on the 1st of May, the council said to the Committee for Planning, give us some ideas on restrictions. From the 1st to the 9th, when the committee met with their ideas, there was no community group involvement invited. So our first chance to have any input in those decisions was at this meeting on the 9th. So we were hoping people would show up. We spread the word, and 160 people showed up to speak. And I was very impressed. They allowed every one of us to talk. I really expected them to say, well, we see a lot of interested people, but we only have an hour. They stayed for 6 hours. And I think Sharon, Cindy, and I, and several others should get merit badges because we stayed for the whole thing. But it was, I think, a productive meeting. It was frustrating for a lot of people because they didn't get everything they hoped, but there were some concessions, I think, made. So what this group is called is the Land Use and Housing Committee. It is made up of 4 of the 9 city council members. And we had individuals speak. You were limited to 1 minute. The committee gets to decide whether you get 1 minute, 5 minutes, based on the number of people. They limit it to 1 minute. And you could actually give away your minute to somebody else if you had a person that your group wanted. So quite a few people gave their time to a group called Neighbors for a Better San Diego, and they did a fabulous job. They had some very good ideas on some limitations and presented them. And the council or committee listened. They came back at the end of the meeting with things like one council member said, well, we hear all that, but we need housing in San Diego. So that told us basically nothing was going to stop the development. But there are some websites out there and some information I can share after with anyone that would like more detail. There's a group in Ocean Beach, a coalition that came to our Serra Mesa board meeting earlier this month. And we have joined with that group to try to work on some of these projects. They figured the more committee groups in town that get together, the more our voices might be heard. So I think they've done a good job. There's a newspaper called the OB, as in Ocean Beach Rag. They do a wonderful job. And if you look at their website, they have a recap of the planning meeting. Sounds like an old hippie newsletter to me, but I think it's wonderful. So they're very active, and they were all present at the meeting. So one of the biggest things that I heard as the groups were gathering is that some of the changes that are being recommended to try to do some restrictions to the ADU development, they're not enough to protect single-family neighborhoods and first-time home buyers from the harm that this program is doing. And I was interviewed by Channel 8 after I spoke, and I asked them to show in their interview coverage on TV a young lady who got up and spoke and did a wonderful job. She brought poster boards where she enlarged pictures of her grandmother's home that she lived in her entire life. And it was a standard home like we would have here in Serra Mesa. It showed it before and after the ADUs came. And she lives in a cul-de-sac on a canyon. And they have put in 8 units behind her. One of them showed an apartment. I have to call it an apartment building. It was not a dwelling, a house. It was an apartment that was 6 stories high. The lady that spoke and showed pictures of that, she said she doesn't even want to let her children play in the backyard anymore because this giant monstrosity is looming. She has no idea who's in all those windows up in those apartments. So some of the building, although it's legal right now, is just out of control. So what the city came back with, and this is now going on to the city council for consideration. And I would like to thank Raul, our city councilman. He was there. And like I said, some of the council people just said, they didn't say sorry, but they basically said, we need to build. We need housing. But he said that, yes, we do need housing, but we also need social responsibility. And I think that was very important, because they need to look at the outcome of what's coming from some of these. So they have now recommended to the city council to limit the number of ADUs that can go on a property. And for a standard single home residence like the area like Serra Mesa, the majority of our lots, they will not be allowed to build more than 4. They are also, this was a wonderful win, I think, they're maxing the height to 2 stories for all ADUs. And Raul pressed them on that. Do you mean 2 plus the ground floor? They said, no, 2 total. So I think that's a big win, because we're looking at some 6 and 8 stories going in. They also are now going to make fire zones and cul-de-sacs completely off limits, because that was one of the big things that people raised with fire canyons all around us. They get that many buildings, people trying to get out of those areas in fire zones, and we're all on canyons. So we have a lot of fire zones. And one of the biggest things that I think is important is the problem is none of the ADUs have a requirement when they're built to provide parking. So they are going to restore on-site parking. And that was, yes.
I just want to say, this has to be voted on.
Exactly. Exactly. This is what is being recommended as like the key points, and it all goes to the city council. So none of this is fine.
That's not.
No, it's different.
Oh, so they made it on a holiday. Okay. Well, good. Everybody will be off. They can go. Oh, June 19th? Oh, okay. So the parking issue, that was one of the things I talked about. We have a legislative requirement in California to reduce greenhouse emissions and not put as much trash in the landfills. To do so, we're being asked to use the green cans for recycling compost and the blue cans for recycling bottles, cans, that kind of thing. We can't even put our trash cans down anymore because the ADUs in our areas, they're parking across your driveway. They have nowhere to park. So that is another problem. One of the other big issues that people brought up is, what is this doing to our sewer lines? The sewer pipes are old. They're not made to handle 8 units in your backyard. So all those issues were brought up. We did a good job. I think the people that spoke, there was not a lot of anger, which I had expected. There were some signs, a little bit heavy, protest signs. I'll let you go here in a minute. I did wear my Padres City Connect jersey, which is designed to bring groups together from different communities. I told the city council when I started, I chose to wear that because I wanted them to know we weren't there in an adversarial relationship. We want them to work with us so that the ADUs will make housing opportunities available without degrading our neighborhoods. The last thing, because I always like to end with a little levity, as I told them that I hope they would do something to rein in some of these large complexes, because some of us on the council have already thought about establishing senior nudist colonies to scare off potential buyers. So I hope they would do something so we didn't have to resort to that. And there are 3 of us that have brought that up. Joe, did you want to introduce?
Well, first, does anybody have any questions for Judy? I think she spoke about.
So all these recommendations came out of the land use and housing committee meeting that you're talking about. Was there a vote, those 4 city council members?
Yes, one was absent of the 4 that are there, and correct me if I'm wrong here. The vote was 3-1, which I thought was good. And Raul, for those of you that don't know, Miles is here representing the city council. He comes to all our meetings and takes back input from the meetings, and we'll take input from you when you have things you'd like to share with him to take back. But I did ask him to let him know I was going to mention Raul. I think he did a good job representing us. And he stayed for the whole thing too.
Another question.
Oh, yes.
I had a question back to the SDSU. When will pedestrian facilities be restored on Friars Road and Sandy Bush?
When will what?
Pedestrian facilities be restored on Friars Road?
I couldn't.
Pedestrian. Yeah, when pedestrian,
Sandy, okay. When will the pedestrian facilities be restored across Friars or on Friars Road across Mission Village Drive and also on Mission San Diego Road?
And what has taken away that you're referring to?
The pedestrian facilities were eliminated when SDSU thing started.
You mean the-
crosswalk?
Oh, you mean the crosswalks? You know what? I will find out.
South side, Friars Road.
Okay, I will find out. Now, they did say when construction starts, they do expect it to have some impact on traffic in the area. They're going to do their best to start posting and notifying.
These are permanent changes, so they need to revise something, so we get the pedestrian facilities back.
Okay, we will put that in for them to get back to us on,
And Mission San Diego Road, that people are walking down the road.
with no crosswalks. Okay. We did.
We could update on that, maybe we could post it on the website.
Will do. One of the things that we did bring to them as after some of our meetings here in past months is the fact that when you come down Friars Road and approach, you're coming from the east toward the west, you get to Mission Village Drive. As you turn right, that is a very dangerous corner. And we want them to do something about letting people know there's pedestrians crossing there. So for example, as they approach the stadium and are going to turn right up the hill, that down a ways, there's a flash, something to say there's a crossing. So we've asked.
People run that lane all the time.
Yes, they do. It's a very dangerous intersection.
It's red. It's
So I will find out.
Any other questions? This city with the next.
I'm going to add just a little bit. In regards to this whole issue, if you are concerned about ADUs, what I suggest you do is get on our email list and we will send out a constant contact email giving you additional information. And then I want to actually personally thank our city council member, Raul Campillo, because he actually mentioned the CPC. CPC is a group of all of the planning, they send representatives. Each planning group can send a representative to the CPC. And then the CPC studies an issue and they make recommendations. For example, one of the recommendations that they made was that there just be 4 units, 4 AD units per property. That just makes it easy. Just do 4. But that wasn't quite accepted. But anyway, the things that Judy was talking about, they're not definite. So we need to continue the pressure on the city council members to make these changes, because Serra Mesa actually has been pretty lucky. But if you've listened to the news, you can hear about the ones in Claremont, like 17 units on a property. I mean, it's just atrocious what has happened and what the neighbors have to put up with. So definitely sign up. If you sign up here, we'll add your email address if you're not getting our constant contact emails. That's all. And it's only used by the community groups. But what Raul did was he actually thanked the CPC. I mean, he was so complimentary. He said, I'm grateful to this Community Planners Committee for the work they do. I value the community planning groups. I won't go into the rest of the politics in there, but the attitude he mentioned shown towards community planning groups diminished their status. And that's what's happened to our planning groups. But we have one council member that's going to fight for us, that's going to try to get our respect back, because your planning group, which meets Kat was the chair for 8 years. So anyway, they meet once a month if there's something on the agenda, and they evaluate the different things that are affecting either their community or other communities, if it's a citywide thing, and they make recommendations. And I don't think we've been heard very well. So it sounds like we're starting to be heard, that the city council members are getting pressure because of all these things that they voted on that have allowed to happen. So anyway, that's the end of my tirade.
And that's exactly right. What Cindy said, this is just proposed. It's not final. So city council could say, oh, well, we're going back to no restrictions, unless they hear that we don't want that and we need to keep at that. And just to clarify, the 4 limit unit ADUs, that is for single family, certain size lots like we have here. That's not citywide final. They could go higher in some areas, bigger lots. But one good thing I think was that they cut out cul-de-sacs, because if you've ever been in a cul-de-sac, there's no parking anyway. But once they put 8 units in the cul-de-sac, the big issue was if there's a fire, how are those people going to get out? Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Brent from MTS. You have the floor. Do you need a microphone or are you good?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Brent Boyd, I'm Director of Planning and Scheduling for MTS, and thank you for inviting us here. We're happy to come and talk to you about what's going on with MTS. Judy, that's great news about the stadium. That's been an issue with us ever since the stadium got transferred over from city property, and now it's state property. It's San Diego State University. And we've been told that they're not allowed to provide free parking on educational properties owned by the state. So that's good news that we heard from Judy, and hopefully we'll change that. So we get comments about that all the time, having free parking at the stadium, because we used to have it and we would love to have it. And I do know there are exceptions that can be made, because last year we had a trolley shutdown in Mission Valley. And it's at the same time as the SDSU basketball game. Well, a ton of people take the trolley to SDSU basketball games, and they wanted to make sure people could still go there. So they opened up free parking on that day of a SDSU basketball game. So there are exceptions made. We know we're going to get parking during Comic-Con. A ton of people take the trolley to Comic-Con. There's going to be parking on those days, but it's going to be a charge. It's going to be a $10 charge. And one thing that is different with the Snapdragon Stadium is they're having a ton more events than the old Qualcomm Stadium. In the old Qualcomm Stadium, we had the Chargers, and the Chargers left, and we basically had 5 or 6 events a year, it seemed like. Now, you guys probably know there's events every weekend, if not a couple per weekend. So there's just a lot more events. And in my previous job to Director of Planning and Scheduling, I organized all of our special event service. I felt like I was at the stadium every weekend. So I can understand your guys' concern with the stadium, but we're not here to talk about the stadium, although I'm happy to answer any questions about it. I'm here to talk about what's going on with MTS and kind of the future of MTS. We're kind of at a crossroads right now. So we're reaching out to a lot of groups, talking to them. We're doing a lot of public outreach. We're spending a lot of time at transit centers and such. So I'll get into why we're doing that. So next slide. So if you don't, next slide, is that working? The PDF or the PowerPoint was too big to send, so we converted it to a PDF. So we're using a PDF right now. There we go.
There we go, right?
Okay. So for anybody that's not familiar with MTS, in San Diego County, there's 2 transit operators. Here is MTS, the red buses you see running around, that's MTS. We operate about 100 bus routes. There's 2 of them up here, the 25 and the 928. We're probably more famous for operating the trolley, which you'll see in downtown San Diego, the stadium, all that kind of stuff. We now have 4 trolley lines, the blue line, which connects the border, Mexico with UTC, and the orange line that goes from downtown out to El Cajon, and the green line, which is one you guys are probably most familiar with, that goes through Mission Valley into downtown. And now we have a new copper line out in East County, which connects between El Cajon and Santee. The other transit agency is North County Transit. For anybody that's ridden the coaster, which is a beautiful ride up the coast. For anybody that hasn't ridden it, you should. It connects all the coastal communities up north. That's operated by NCTD. And if you're ever up in North County, there's a bunch of blue buses running around. That's a different transit agency. But we're pretty much all the operators south of Del Mar and south of Escondido for the most part. We carry about 250,000 people per day. We actually, before COVID, and I'll talk a little bit about how COVID impacted transit ridership. We're a little bit higher than that. We almost got to 300,000 a day. So we carry a lot of people. In terms of our profile, generally it's a younger ridership. About 50% of our riders are under 30. Right now we have a youth opportunity pass, which is funded through SANDAG, and that's free transit for everybody 18 and under, as long as they sign up for a path. And that's been a huge hit. Unfortunately, funding's running out for that next summer. So we're currently talking about what's going to happen with that. And a huge percentage of our ridership is transit dependent. So they're reliant on the trolley and bus to get to school, to get to their jobs, all that kind of stuff. So it's a great community service. Everybody, we can go to the next slide. Okay. It's a very interesting graph here. So what you see here is, of course, we all know that COVID hit in 2020, 2021. It hit every industry across the country, I think. It particularly hit public transit because public transit was basically everything that you didn't want to do with COVID. That's what public transit was. It was getting a lot of people in a small space, touching things. But, nobody wanted to touch things during COVID. We have in San Diego, there's a lot of employment downtown and offices, all that kind of stuff. That kind of went away. The whole work from home thing, that hurts public transit ridership. So it's hurt public transit ridership here in San Diego, but it's hurt public transit ridership across the entire country, all over the country. So what you're looking at here is the number of rides that we carried in 2019, which was almost 90 million rides. 2020 and 2021, we lost more than half of our ridership. Since then, we've been growing every year, and we expect next year to recoup all the ridership losses that we had during COVID. So we'll be back about 100% of our ridership pre-COVID. And what's unfortunate is you look at this graph, if we extend the graph before 2019, you'll see ridership going up and up and up. Then COVID hits and it just drops like a rock. If we go to the next slide. But one of the good things, it's funny, I'm like moving the slides on my screen, even though it's not doing anything, it's just natural. One of the things with San Diego is we actually have kept a higher percentage of ridership in transit than the rest of the country. So some of the charts here, we have the second highest ridership retention of the 25 largest transit agencies in the United States. Probably surprise a lot of you that we are the 13th largest transit agency in the entire United States in terms of ridership. And of the 12 above us, like 4 of them are in New York City. If you've ever been to New York City for transit, their transit just blows everybody else out of the water. But there's New York City, there's Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, San Francisco, Chicago, all these major cities that have better transit than us. You take them out of the equation, and we are higher ridership than comparable cities of our size, like Denver, Houston, Dallas, Seattle, and so on. We actually have a higher ridership than those cities. So actually before COVID, we were the number 21 transit agency. And since COVID, we're now number 13. So we've gone up a lot in the last 4 or 5 years. One of the reasons for that was we kept a lot of the services out there. We're transit agencies across the country. We're reducing services. We kept as much out there as we possibly could. We basically kept as much out there as we had operators to provide it. One of the challenges that everybody has had, not just transit, but across the entire region, is having people come to work. I think everybody, losing people, particularly a place like this, where you can't be a bus driver and work from home, right? You can't be a mechanic and work from home. You have to come into the office, and you have places all over the country, all over the world, where now there's a lot of work from home, which is a big benefit. So we've struggled to retain bus operators, mechanics, and so on. We basically left as much service out there as we could, given those constraints. But there's been a lot of good stuff other than that. So number 2 fastest growing transit ridership in the country of the bigger transit agencies. Light rail, the trolley is considered light rail. That's what transit nerds call that mode. We have the 2nd largest ridership of all the light rail systems in the entire country. Only Los Angeles is bigger than us. Huge increase in youth ridership. As I mentioned, we have this youth opportunity pass with free transit for 18 and under. And a large percentage of our riders are using MTS to get to work or school. So really helping their education, the economy, and so on. I'll get into some of our economic stats in a second. And then we've seen a huge increase in special event ridership also. So while a large percentage of our ridership is transit dependent, they're relying on the trolley, they don't have alternative modes. There's a lot of people that are now taking it to Snapdragon Stadium, Petco Park, and so on. That might be their only experience with the trolley, but we'd like to provide a good experience. And it's really advantageous to take the trolley to special events. You don't have to deal with the $50 parking. You don't have to deal with the traffic. I mean, the traffic getting in and out of Snapdragon is just amazing. Somehow the stadium is half the size of the old one, and it feels like it takes twice as long to get out. I don't know how that happened, but I'd be at the trolley platform. We'd see the trolley clear out the entire platform while cars hadn't moved yet. So it's just a huge advantage to take the trolley to special events. If we go to the next slide. With all that said, we have a lot of good things happening, but we have a future that is not looking so great. So the chart that you're looking at here is the blue is our operating budget, basically the expenses of operating a transit system. The red is our recurring revenues. So we get a small portion of our operating expenses are covered by fare revenues. The standard across the country is 20%. We call fare box recovery. And that's every dollar that you spend, you get 20 cents back in fares. Traditionally for MTS, we've been much higher than that. And there's reasons for that, which I'll get into in a second. We've always had like a 40% fare box recovery rate. With COVID, now we're back down to about 20, but the nationwide is probably about like 5 or 10% right now. So we get a small percentage of our revenues from fares. Then we get state subsidies, some local subsidies, and so on. There's been a lot of COVID funding from the federal and state governments, basically to sustain public agencies like MTS, like the city, and all that kind of stuff. But those funds are running out. So we are forecasting a budget deficit in FY29 of somewhere around $100 million or more, and then growing as the years go out. I'm sure you've heard in the news, and the city of San Diego is dealing with this. They have all kinds of budget cuts. The state's dealing with it. MTS is dealing with it. Transit agencies across the entire country are dealing with it. So we're no exception. But we don't have a very enjoyable future to look forward to right now. So we keep saying that we're approaching a crossroads because of this big budget shortfall. And $100 million doesn't really mean much to anybody, right? But to put it in perspective, we could eliminate the entire trolley system and we wouldn't be at $100 million in savings. We could eliminate all of our trolley services and bus services on weekends, just have no service on Saturday or Sunday, and we wouldn't be at $100 million in savings. So it's this massive budget deficit that we need to figure out somehow. So if you go to the next slide. So again, we're at this crossroads. Some of the reasons for this big budget deficit are competitive job market. We talked about all this work from home ability. Costs are just going up. I'm sure every one of you have seen the costs go up just in general. And you go to the grocery store, costs are up. You buy anything, costs are higher. If you hire anybody to do anything, the costs are higher to hire them. So the costs keep going up, but our fares do not. We have not raised our fares since 2009. And so not only are costs going up and revenues are staying static, but the value of a fare in 2009 is about 30% less now. So even though the fares haven't gone up, effectively it's a fare reduction because of the value of the fare has gone down. So we're losing out. The costs are going up. The fare revenues aren't going up. And then what we have here, we're calling a lack of modern funding locally. And what that means is we're not getting additional revenue from sales taxes, that type of thing. LA Metro, if anybody's been up in LA, they're building rail like crazy. And they're also prepping for the Olympics and stuff like that. So they have a catalyst to do it. but they have a 2-cent sales tax for every person that lives in LA County to fund transit and transit expansion. San Francisco has a great system. They have BART, they have Muni, all that kind of stuff. Wonderful system out there. They get a cent and a half sales tax just to fund transit. Here in San Diego, we get a 0.5 cent, and that's called transit. I don't know if you're familiar with transit or not. Got passed back in 2004. Funded a lot of transit expansion. It expanded the Blue Line expansion up to UTC from Old Town. There's some rapid bus services that's funded, but very little of it funds just general operations. So it's an 1/8 of a cent. So we always hear all the time, transit is so much better in these other places, which is true in some respect. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Land use, the way the city was developed. But a big part of that is funding, how much the local area gives to transit. So we're looking at ways to increase that potential funding. So if we go to the next slide. So some of the things that we've done to address the budget deficit. We had planned bus and trolley increases with this COVID money. We were actually going to increase service in January. We postponed that because of this budget deficit that we're facing. The state mandate has us going to 0 emission vehicles completely by 2035. I think we think that that's a great goal. We'd love to be 0 emission. Our buses already have a lot less pollution than a general automobile. But the problem with going to 0 emission buses is the 0 emission buses cost about twice as much as a regular bus. The regular bus is about $1 million and 0 emission bus is $2 million, and they go half as far. So to provide the same level of service, you basically need to spend 4 times as much money for a 0 emission vehicle. And then you need all the infrastructure, either in the garages or out on the streets to do in-route charging, that type of thing. So it's very expensive. I think it's a good goal, but it's very expensive and it's a non-funded goal. So the state basically said, you need to go to 0 emission, but there's no funding included in it. So we're pushing back on that as much as we can and delaying it. I think to a person at MTS, everybody recognizes we want to do it, but we just don't have the money to do it right now. So we're postponing that. We have a ton of capital at MTS. If you really look in detail at any of the trolley lines, there's catenary, catenary is the wire. We have substations, there's just a lot of infrastructure involved, bridges, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of maintenance that we have. We postponed as much of that as possible to be able to put that into operating funds. A lot of the funding sources or funding that we get is tied, like we get federal funding. That has to go to capital. It can't go to operating funds. So we do as much as we can to take the money that we get and put it where we need to, but we are hamstrung a little bit in that. Increased fare enforcement. I don't know if any of you ride the trolley. If you do, hopefully you've seen a lot more fare checkers out there in the last couple of months. We started fare enforcement February 1st. We did fare enforcement. We just really increased the fare enforcement. Prior to February 1st, the punishment for not having a fare on the trolley was if you got caught, you had to get off the trolley and buy a fare. So there's really no punishment. There's really no incentive to pre-purchase a fare. Now it's a $25 fine, so it's a lot more incentive for people to buy a fare in advance. I mentioned how we haven't increased fares since 2009. We're doing a fare study with Sandag right now to look at possibly increasing fares. We can't raise fares independently. It's actually there's a countywide fare ordinance that's overseen by Sandag, and they would increase fares for both us and CTD. So there's a lot of mechanisms that are involved in making that happen. And then other administrative and operational cost savings efforts. We have basically a hiring freeze right now and some other things that we've done administratively. Go to the next slide. So a project that is near and dear to my heart, we just kicked it off. We're hiring a consultant to do a comprehensive operational analysis. And what that means is we're preparing for kind of 2 different futures. One is the potential of doing a sales tax ballot measure in November of 2026. And so I had the slide about how we don't have as much funding as other cities do. So we're looking at that potential, doing a ballot measure. Right now, we're surveying the public, seeing if it would be successful or not. what people think of MTS, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of work to deciding if you want to go through a ballot measure or not. And if we do that, or there's additional funding that comes through the state somehow, although they just did the budget revision this past month, I think last week or so, that hasn't been great news for transit. But if somehow we come into additional money, we're going to develop a plan. We're analyzing our service and we're going to develop a plan for increased service, whether we get additional sales tax revenue or money from the state or some of that sort. The other issue is if we don't get additional funding and we're stuck with that $100 million budget deficit, what do? I talked about the scope of services that we'd have to reduce if we have that budget deficit. Again, the entire trolley system, all weekend service, something of that sort. We've hired a consultant to help us look at what's working now, the new travel patterns since COVID, all that kind of stuff. And then we're going to be coming up with two different plans. One is if we get additional revenues, one if we don't. And there's going to be a lot of talk over the next year and a half about those potential options. We go to the next slide. So the timeline is right now we're doing a lot of public outreach. Events like this. I was just in Santee on Saturday. They had a Santee street fair. So we're going to places like that. We'll set up a tent and basically just take input from people about what they think of the transit system. We're going out to transit center. So you go to events like that and you talk to a lot of people that don't take transit, just the general public. We do a sales tax measure, something of that sort. You know, the vast majority of people are not public transit riders, right? So you're going to need the support of non-transit riders for a ballot measure. So we're going out to events like that, getting feedback on what they think is good about the transit system and what needs improvement. Then we're also going to transit centers and talking to actual transit riders to find out what they think is good and bad with the transit system and where we can improve. So we're doing a lot of outreach over the next few months, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Then we're going to develop proposals for enhanced services. So that first scenario I talked about on that previous slide, where we're going to increase service. We'll be looking at that over the next few months. Well, I guess the next 6 months. We'll have a final plan by the end of this year, bring it to our board, they'll approve it, and then at that point, we're going to decide if we're going to go for a ballot measure or not. If we go for a ballot measure in November, we basically have to decide that by March. We have to get the language kind of settled in, I think at least 6 months ahead of time. So we kind of need to decide by March if we're going to go for it, and then really get the ballot language finalized in the next couple months. After we go through that process to decide if we're going to go for a ballot measure or not, then we need to start planning as if we're not going to have a ballot measure and no increased funding. And now that's when we're going to start taking a look at reducing all the services. And again, it's going to be significant cuts if we get to that point. So we'll develop that plan over next year in 2026. We'll basically have both plans ready to go in November of 2026. And then if we do a ballot measure and it passes, then we'll be able to go with the plan where we're going to increase services. If we do the ballot measure and it fails, then we'll go with this other plan. Or if we don't do the ballot measure at all, then we'll go with this other plan. And then we'll develop the next steps. Go to the next slide. So in terms of the outreach, I just talked a lot about what we're doing. So a lot of events over the next few months. We're going to have an online engagement tool. So once we have that finalized, I'll send it out to this group, and it'd be great to get input from you. And then we're working a lot with CBOs and planning groups like this. We want to go to as many planning groups as we can, many civic groups as we can. So there'll be a lot of outreach from MTS regarding this. Probably most important for this group is we'll have this online tool, and it'd be nice to spread the news and get as much input as we possibly can. We go to the next slide. That's it. So we'd always like to leave people with some good news on how great we think MTS is. We just got our customer satisfaction survey back, and about 86% of riders, 83% of non-riders believe MTS is valuable to the community. And we think it's a valuable agency for the community, whether you ride it or not. I always argue it's better, even if I don't ride transit, it's better for me that you all ride transit because you reduce traffic. It's better urban form, all that kind of stuff. I do ride transit. I don't even have a car right now. I ride transit, but I live and work downtown, so it's a lot easier to do that without a car down there. So we have very high satisfaction rates around the county. 78% of our riders are dependent on our services to get to and from their destinations. So getting people to school, to their jobs, all that kind of stuff. And that results in an overall $1 billion annual economic impact. The kind of rule of thumb with transit is $1 investment in transit equals a $3 to $5 investment in the region. There's a multiplier effect because you're investing in transit, you're allowing people to get to school, get to jobs, and that type of thing. We always say if you can use MTS and not have a car, you save about $15,000 a year. It's hard to do, particularly in different areas of the community. It'd be hard to not have a car in Serra Mesa. But you know, there are places in the community where you can. Yeah, do that. So I think that's it. Slide. Yeah. So any questions or comments? We have contact information. These are our marketing folks to reach out for additional information. I'll have my card here as well for anybody that.
Frank, can you, the online tool that you talked about,
Mhm.
when you have that ready, we can use that assembly to put out to the constant comment link or social
Okay.
media sites to spread it around. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you'll be wanting people to do with that online tool?
So what, I should have explained that more. So what we're doing at the outreach is they're calling them pom-poms. There's these little balls that are like this big. I always thought of a pom-pom as like a cheerleader thing, but there's like these little balls about this big, and we're giving people 3 of them. And we have a bunch of buckets, and the buckets are increased services, more hours of service, faster service, more security, lower fares, that type of thing. So there's 8 or 9 different categories, and we're asking people to place the pom-poms in what they think is the most important to invest in for transit. We also have a map where we're asking people to kind of put a line on the map of their most common trip or trip that they'd like to be able to make on transit. So we make similar tools online. So you wouldn't have the physical pom-pom to drop in the bucket, but you know, there'd be like a ranking system, that type of thing. So it'd be a very, very quick input. It's really just to get a gauge from the community on what's important to the community regarding transit. It's really interesting to see at the different events that we've been to, the different priorities of transit riders versus non-transit riders. A lot of the events that we've gone to with non-transit riders, the biggest thing is increased security, increased safety. You go to the events with the transit riders, and they feel that the system is very safe. And I think the perception of safety is different than the reality of safety. I think our system is very safe. We're covered. You can't go anywhere on the system without being on camera. All the buses have cameras. All the trolleys have like 12 cameras inside, I think. All the stations have cameras. So it's actually very safe. But the perception, I think, is that it's not safe from people that aren't using the system. And that's understandable. You hear stories on the news and stuff like that. So it's really interesting seeing the different opinions. The transit riders, they're really focused on just more services, more frequency, that type of thing. And you get different feedback from different people, which is good because, again, if we go for a ballot measure, we're going to need input from everybody. If we run a ballot measure for transit and we're only counting on the transit riders to support it, it has no chance. So you need to buy in from the communities. It's like, who's asking that question?
Yeah, my question was, if you do expand the service, where will restoration of bus service on Mission Village Drive go in there?
That'll be part of the study. So I can't answer that right now, but it's going to be part of what we're looking at. We're going to look at we're going to look at current transit patterns, right? But that only tells us what the current transit users are using. They're not using Mission Village Drive, right? Because there's no service there now. So we'll also be looking at community travel patterns. We work a lot with Sandag to understand overall origin destination travel demand. So we'll be looking at that type of thing. There's this new data available. It's called replica data, which is basically cell phone data. You get origin destinations from travel patterns just on your cell phone, Google Maps or something like that. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at the services across the entire spectrum. And when we do the outreach tool, I'd recommend providing a comment that we need service back on Mission Village or anywhere else.
This whole Serra Mesa community could use a way down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Charlie's.
I mentioned it already.
Yeah. The good thing. Good.
Oh, just curious, out of the total ridership, do you have any idea what the percentage is between bus and Cullen?
It's about half and half.
Is it about-
So what was really interesting is before COVID, it was a little bit higher on bus. And then immediately after COVID, trolley like way surpassed bus. And I think one of the reasons was most of the schools that we serve are on the bus system, and the schools are really hit with COVID, right? I mean, schools are shut down for a year or two. So that really hurt the bus ridership. So trolley went up to about like 55-60% of the ridership, but now it's about 50-50.
I really like the trolley and the bus system. I retired from the school district last year.
Yeah.
And we would take kids on field trips just so that they could understand
Yeah.
that they didn't need a car.
Oh, that's
And
great.
We'd get, I had a club and we get 40-50 kids, get on the bus right in front of our school, take it down to the trolley, go downtown, go to UCSD.
Yeah.
So just to help them understand how to do that. So I hope that you get your funding back for the under 18.
Yeah.
Because that helped with the. field
I-
trip. We
yeah.
would have to pay like $300 for a bus or
Yeah.
two. From the school district, where here we can get on, the kids are all free, just as adults have to pay.
Yeah, and one of the, there's a lot less school bus service available than there used to be as well. Because I mean, they're hit with issues too. So we're getting more and more requests for service to schools. We're restricted on, there's charter rules, basically. So we can't just serve a school, like we can't dedicate a trip to a school if it's not on a route. And we can't restrict it to only students. It has to be open to the general public. But we have a lot of ridership to schools, and it's been.
It's good to look at the community.
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
because the public-
Yeah, and I know these days, like people are getting their driver's licenses later than, used to be you'd get your driver's license right the day you turned 16. And now it's not so much anymore. Yeah.
Oh, I have kind of a nice story about the trolley ride.
No, we always like to hear those.
I was downtown for lunch and on my way home, at Moreno. The trolley kept stopping, starting, and finally the conductor came on and said, we have an injured animal on the track, and that's why we're stopping. and
Oh.
starting." So, what usually would take 10 minutes, took about 30, but he kept us posted the whole time.
Yeah.
He's still running along. We're watching so he doesn't cross the track. And he was like,
Oh.
so there.
That- Yeah, that's a thing that we always try to push is, you were stuck there for 20 minutes. And if they hadn't said anything,
Yes.
you probably would have been going crazy. You've been like, why is this happening? But if they give you updates and they say why,
Yes.
suddenly it doesn't seem so bad. And that's, unfortunately, that's one of the things. Some of the trolley operators are good at that and some not so much. So that's something that we continue to push.
Thank you. In my various travels around some parts of San Diego, with the exception of downtown area or special events, it seems like these buses have maybe a handful of people on them a lot of times. So my question would be, has any thought given to having smaller buses on certain routes where you're just not going to have that?
Yeah, and we do. So we have 3 different types of buses. We have, I'm gonna get all nerdy here. It's a 60-foot, a lot of people call them like an accordion bus, called articulated. Basically, it's kind of like 2 buses in one. And those operate in our core center city route for the most part. Then we have a standard bus, which is a 40-footer, and that's what you see a lot of running around. But then we also have mini buses, and the mini buses are like 20 feet long. And we have those in a lot of the neighborhood circulators. I don't think they're on either of the routes up here.
25.
That's 25, yeah. 964 up in Mira Mesa has them, and we probably have them on like 10 or 15 different routes. The challenge is we can do that on routes that always have small ridership, right? Like all day long, they'll have small ridership. The problem is, and you'll see this, you might see a route that at noon had nobody on it, but at 8 a.m. was jam-packed. And that one, and the buses are out there operating all day long. So for that route, you can't have like a long bus at 8 a.m. and then a short bus at noon. So we have challenges like that. With the trolley, generally we operate 3-car trains, but then we can cut back during lower demand times. So generally the trolley has a 3-car train. At night, we cut it to 2 cars. On the weekends, we cut it to 2 cars. Sometimes they go to 1 car. So that's an advantage with the trolleys. You can adjust the train size. With the buses, you're a little bit more restricted. You can't just like have the short bus operate on this trip and the long bus operate on this trip. It just becomes a little bit more complicated.
So does MTS have a kind of like a 30,000-foot view of proposed growth as far as different routes and things like that?
So the long-term planning is overseen by Sandag. So they're really doing the population and employment forecast and all that kind of stuff. They're the ones that are building the origin destination model and that type of thing. And then MTS, we're kind of the short range planner. So we're looking 5-10 years ahead at the most. And we certainly have ideas of where we should have increased services, where maybe services could be reduced. So we certainly have those concepts. We really want to expand our rapid bus services. So those are, we don't have any right here, but you see them at the Kearney Mesa Transit Center over on Claremont Mesa and Complex. We have the 235, which goes up the I-15 corridor, and then a number of others throughout the region. Those are really connecting regional destinations quicker. So I think that's a good thing to invest in. So I mean, we definitely look at it. I don't think we have an overall strategy document right now, and that's part of what this comprehensive operational analysis is going to build for us. We're going to look at kind of 2 different scenarios, one where we have expanded funding and one where we don't. But a plan that you should look at is the Sandag regional transportation plan. So they're the ones that are looking out, 20, 30 years in advance. Is
I
that?
think just one last thing, with the tapping system, like pay for fare.
Yeah.
Is there any possibility to get it where, like, if I was with my wife and I wanted to pay for her fare, I could just tap twice? Because right now we're being told that has to be an independent card.
Yeah.
They do in Australia.
I know. Well, it drove me when I was doing the special event stuff down at the, I mean, it would drive me crazy because you go to a special event with your family, you have 4 people. And instead of being able to tap it 4 times, you have to have 4 different cards. That's a different issue. I'd say we're looking at it and we hope that it happens someday, but it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So.
Hey, everybody talks about the robo taxis. When is the robo buses coming?
There's a lot of things that have that. You're talking about the automated buses. Yeah. There's a lot of things that have to happen there. I mean, first of all, the technology has to be there. I mean, it's somewhat there now. I was just up in San Francisco and they had the Waymos up there. I think it's a little bit different with buses where you're pulling over, picking up people, you have to stay on a route, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of government rules that would have to change. Like it or not, the unions have a lot of power. A lot of power. I think there would be a fight with the unions to have a completely automated system. But I think that fight will happen. My guess is 15, 20 years from now. I think there's a lot of things that have to happen before we're ready. And, I feel like 15 to 20 years ago, we were saying 15 to 20 years from now is when that'll happen. So I think it's kind of, again, postponed a little bit.
Let's go back to the ones going down the middle of the road with the wires, remember?
Yeah, well, and like Vancouver, I don't know if you've been to Vancouver, but they have a completely automated train system and it's great. But so the trolley, I mean, you see the trolley down here and it's completely separated from automobiles. But a lot of the system is not. Like downtown, it's operating on the streets and stuff like that. Vancouver, their train system is just completely separated from car traffic. But you can operate a lot more service, because one of the biggest expenses is paying people. If you're not paying people, you can operate more service.
But if you don't pay people, nobody will write it because nobody will have a job. And it comes down to if you, everything's automated,
Yeah.
and we don't need anything because nobody can afford it.
Right. So that's definitely a long-term discussion. Again, just like the fare system, that's something that I think everybody's thinking about, but it's not imminent. But I mean, it'll happen someday, I'm sure. I'm just not sure.
My life.
You never know. Just a couple comments, one on the cable. Buses. There was a lot of information about Wall Park. If you've been to some of the exhibits there, it talks about the Panama exhibition back in the 1920s. They had a full trolley system put in for that. You could go all over town on the trolley. But in their wisdom, somebody decided now that automobiles were coming, we didn't need it anymore, so they tore out all the tracks. I'm sure they could have been updated and used.
Yeah.
What I wanted to comment on is, I'm sure you're going to get input from the Serra Mesa residents about Mission Village Hill.
Yeah.
As much as we'd like to walk and ride bikes and things, it's very difficult to get up and down the mesa.
Yeah.
So bus lines to get in and out of here would be really helpful.
Yeah.
And there was an interesting comment at the ADU meeting that, one of the council members was talking about. The thing with the ADUs is if you build them, people will buy them and that we need to keep them. She was the one councilman talking about how we're not gonna stop them, they have to be here, we need them. But she did make an interesting comment after. She said building something like that is not like the idea they had, that they were proven totally wrong. And that was the bicycle lanes. She said what they were proven wrong with, if you build it, they will come. And we can't make it up that hill very well.
Yeah, that's a tough hill on a bike.
I believe there's a question online.
No, okay.
Sandra?
Hi, I would ride the bus more often. I live in Serra Mesa. And I would ride the bus more often if it went down to Mission Valley. What happens is it goes down Mission Center Road and then turns on Friars Road to go down to the other shopping center. And I don't understand why it doesn't go directly to Mission Valley and then take Camino de la Reina to Fashion Valley, so people could go to Trader Joe's and maybe even Target and stuff across the street.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment. I think it's similar to a couple other comments that we received here. That's definitely something that we'll take a look at, this area in particular, in terms of the network. And it's something that we'll definitely look at. The reason it goes to Fashion Valley now is that it's a major transit center. There's a trolley and 7 or 8 different bus lines. So that's the reason it goes there now. Not to say that it always needs to go there. But thank you for the input. Definitely take up that.
Thanks much, Brent. So let us know when you get that, the link.
Yep.
We can put it on our website, you can send it out on our mailer.
Okay.
Definitely want to, put some good, input in there to influence, the next route.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it. Okay, so, so we want to get some comments from our local representatives. So Miles, can be up next. And I think there might be a few folks online too. Okay.
Yeah, my name is Miles Noel from Councilman Campio's office. Joe sent me over a few questions for this month's meeting, so I'm going to answer some of those. Recent update on the plane crash that I'm sure you all are aware of. Right now, it's an ongoing FAA investigation, but if you follow our socials or our email newsletter, we'll be sending out more updates as they come our way. And also follow San Diego Fire Department on any socials or the newsletter, and they will also have updates on their end as well. For Mission Village Drive and Rhonda Avenue, it's been an ongoing issue with the traffic calming in the area. We had some more specific evaluations go through in the past that didn't come back with any opportunities to fix the issue. So now we have a more broader general evaluation ongoing. So we'll see what that comes back with, hopefully to get some more safety precautions for especially that left turn going into Mission Village. ADUs we kind of already went over, but the best thing to do right now is to come to the city council meeting that's now scheduled for June 16th at 2 p.m. Leave a comment. Like you all have said, your comments have been heard, which is why we're having all these meetings right now. Rough and Trail, when is that gonna be completed? That was supposed to be completed this past winter between December, January. Unfortunately, some funding got held up, so it's being pushed back till this winter, same time period of, December to January. There was also a bit of a more in-depth question about, funding for a grocery store. You have to remind me about if you'll have questions about the exact, form of funding. But it was, for for products that are already in place. So if there is a company that wants to put a store in Serra Mesa, they would come to the city or Sandag and they would get funding and tax breaks through that. But we can go in more in depth on that.
Okay.
There's also been some issues, and I've, not just from this group, but among other people that have reached out, about the Fermi and Gramercy loops, the stoplights, streetlights. Staff knows about them. They're on the they've been on the list. There's work orders created for them, but there's just so many lights and only few electricians to get to them all. But they are on the list and they will get to them as soon as they can. For the Fry's development, I've actually been able to get the developer to take all questions, because the last update I got from them was me persistently asking for them to be open with the community. And so they're going to be the ones that the main contact now, and I have their email here. If anyone wants to take it down, I can just read it off right now. It's going to be Wolf, WOLF, at Wolf, WOLF, properties, PROPERTIES.com. And they should be able to handle any questions.
That's about the trials.
Yeah, prize development, and you can, if they don't respond, you let me know and I can
Okay.
get to them. But any questions for me?
Okay, Cardinal Drive has been begging to get paid.
Mhm.
They're going to re-slurry Finch Lane, which doesn't need it. They've come up half of Cardinal, which didn't need it. There's a whole section that is terrible, and I looked up for the map, because there's a map up, and that's all blank, the part that needs to be done. What's going on?
Yeah, so a lot of the roads you're seeing get done right now are going off of old information. We just got recently updated information this past cycle. So now you'll still see some not useless, but semi-useless streets being done. Where they still were probably good enough. But according to old dad, they weren't. So now going forward, hopefully for the next year or so, we'll see more streets that are actually in disrepair getting fixed. And we've gotten all across the city that's been happening, but I'll make sure to tell them. I think I rehab Cardinal, that section of Cardinal.
They've missed it for the past 20 years, that one
Yeah.
section. It's just, when you look at a map, there's nothing there. You see all these things going around here and then it's blank. And I'm like, why would that happen?
Yeah, we are getting a new updated list of streets to be done this upcoming fiscal year. So I can let people at the next meeting, I'll let you know if Cardinal is on that. And also make sure that
Cardinal Drive.
Cardinal Drive.
So many-
Yeah, I know that there's the Cardinal Road and Cardinal Drive right there too. Okay, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then the other thing is anything gonna be done with Gen Z? Under the 163 with the big bumps, and I know Merle was here before. Next thing I know, they filled them in, but they didn't fix it.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, and again, ambulances go through there, I would not wanna be in an ambulance bouncing.
Yeah, I need to double check to see if that is on the list. I know it's on the list, but I don't know if it's on the list of immediate repairs that are coming soon, but I can double check on that. I just don't know off the top of my head.
It's not.
Yeah, I know. The pothole fillings they're not permanent repairs. They're just,
Because water pools down there and there's something going on. It could be, it's when they redid with the sprinklers, when they had those, the dirty water with the purple pipes.
Mhm.
And it was sometime with that, when you were working on that, that's when that started.
Mhm.
So it could be something underneath that's causing it to.
Yeah.
dig up.
Yeah, and that could honestly be the reason why it hasn't been permanently repaired. I can get that information from staff though. At the next meeting, I'll let you know. Yeah.
Alright, so I'm trying to do bikes regularly, I don't like myself right now,
Mhm.
but I bike to places in the area, just to Mesa, like to do convoy groceries, but. It was like wondering what's the deal with the disconnect in the bike lanes over like near the bridge down there? Like the bike lanes kind of disappear,
Mhm.
the pole specifically, and sort of divides. So
I'd have to.
Oh, Arrow Drive.
yeah, down there.
Going over the 163.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that would most likely be because Arrow Drive was just recently done, along with the slurry for the area. It's all just gonna be things that come into place in the future. It's on, probably on a timeline somewhere. I don't know the timeline off the top of my head. But they will be put there eventually. It's not just they'll be put there. But yeah. Yeah,
So, Arrow was repaved.
Yeah.
About a year ago.
yeah,
We had very little rain this year. There's literally 20 potholes that I put on Get It Done. They've all been paved,
mhm.
but it's only in the one lane. What's the recourse against the the company that paves our street?
What was that section of Arrow? Is it a certain section?
They start at Sandrock and go down to, probably, no, it's past after. What's the little port there?
Arrow.
In front of the hotel.
Okay,
That.
okay, yeah, I got it.
Found the westbound north lane.
Yeah,
So I mean, if we would have had any more rain this year, it would have been really bad, I guess, but literally 20 potholes there.
yeah, there was a similar issue on Gramercy, which is why they actually made them redo it. So I don't know if they've seen that or not. I can make sure they have. And perhaps they could get redone there. So I'll make sure they're up though.
You want to wait till the development's done, because that's actually.
Yeah. Hmm.
Roads, I did get it done up, but my street was prepped for being done, but then the street that's parallel, also Marathon, was prepped and done in the same week.
Oh.
The process had been done. We still have like all these bridges, street.
Right.
Down to Iowa, and it's all. Hold up.
What street do you live on?
Mama.
Okay, yeah. And what's like the closest cross street to it, like Fullerton? Okay.
Yeah, it's been weeks, right? I think
It's been like a month, yes.
Yeah, oh, well, that, yeah.
But they started at the beginning of May,
Mm.
so we moved our cars, they came down, they did whatever.
Oh, so,
And then
yeah, your street was prepped to be done, or was it?
it was, I guess, prepped.
Yeah.
There's all those like
All the-
wrinkles in the concrete, whatever.
Okay.
Like we used them out there, like.
Yeah, I'll have to, did you say you to get it
That
done?
was the Marathon, which is right, next street over, they were done, but
Uh-huh.
then they were paved as well. Like, all
Right,
within a
right.
week. It's been a month, we're still. like,
Yeah.
the cracks.
And those are,
And they filled in the little cracks with like, I guess, black tire or what it was.
Yeah.
But all that's already come up now.
Mhm.
Because it's been a month.
Yeah, it's a-
Right,
yeah.
The town is up.
Yeah,
Miles, they didn't even grade the whole street. They just did along the curb.
Yeah.
They did a curb. They didn't grade the whole street.
Right.
And that's a high traffic area too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you said you submitted you submitted to get it done for
I
it?
did, and I actually spoke to someone from the city, they called me because I was, not thrilled.
Yeah.
So, but they came and said, oh, okay, you're in the schedule or whatever. Well,
Okay.
I mean, I think maybe not in the schedule anymore.
When was that call? Do you remember?
I can Google it.
Okay, if you could, do you have I have a card, but do you have my email by chance or no?
Should be on.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, yeah, just email me your get it done report, and if they emailed you at all, or if they email or call you in the future, let me know. And I'll reach out to them.
The library will be closing in.
Have you had any updates from Stone Press regarding the canyon, palm trees?
I haven't gotten any updates, but I did recently see that they were doing some work on the canyon side there. I don't know if it was related or not, though. I just got that this past weekend, that they're doing some work. I don't know if it's related or not, though. I can, let me double check on it again.
Jim, because I have a question about crosswalks. I was thinking you're talking about it in building and the campus is gonna be inside, but you're talking about on the street. That might be a question for Miles, because that's not San Diego State property.
Well, it got changed when San Diego built their facilities, the crosswalk went away.
Yeah, I think you're talking about San Diego Mission Road, right?
So at Friars Road, there's no longer a crosswalk on the north.
Right.
or South side.
Uh-huh. And then which portion of Friars was it? It was like right when it goes to the bridge area, or?
side or the south side of Friars Road going across Mission Village Drive.
Okay,
It's all blocked, that's for block.
okay,
The crosswalk.
I can-
stayed way and it didn't come down.
right, I
Walk across the Vegas, that's-
yeah, I can make sure that it's either SSU or our property, but, if it's ours, then I can make sure that they know about it.
And Mission San Diego Road, that's.
Right, okay.
Hi, Miles. I'm curious what else the council member is doing regarding the leaded fuel at the airport.
Yeah,
I know he got the fuel bowser installed, which is a great progress. But actually, if you look at the airport advisory committee reports, no one is buying the fuel.
yeah.
Meanwhile, all of our kids who are growing up here are being poisoned by the lead,
Mhm.
which affects their brain development and causes, increased crime and all kinds of other issues in the future.
Right.
This is, I think, a really top issue for our community that has been for many years.
Mhm.
And I think we have a great opportunity as a pioneer in aviation. If you go to the Flight Museum, you'll see all kinds of, right here at the airport, there's all kinds of great progress that's been made over the last 100 years. Pioneer, and I think it's a great
Yeah,
opportunity for our airport to lead the state and the country to achieve the, I know we have the 2031 mandate to remove the usage, but why don't we set ourselves the target to beat it and save so many kids?
Mhm.
And I'm just curious what we can do.
right. Yeah, I mean, so like you said, the 1,000 gallon tank, the fuel bowser was put in last year now. And that was because we wanted to set the precedent to see how many people would use the fuel. And of course, we want to, of course, make people switch over as soon as we can. The only unfortunate thing is that it's just so expensive in the state of California through all the hurdles that pilots have to go through in order to get licensed for that kind of fuel. But of course, we're still pushing for it regardless. Right, at this point, it's kind of in the Dream Airport Management's hands to, whenever they feel that the traffic is up enough, to go ahead and increase the fuel capacity. But Councilmember Campillo has made sure, as well as myself, have told them that we want to switch over as soon as we can.
Is there any consideration to mandate it or somehow incentivize it either with subsidy or, carrot and stick?
Yeah, I mean, that's subsidization is a very great idea. I think as far as subsidies goes from the city, it would probably be a little bit far off, just considering the deficit we're at right now. But if we went to, and of course, it'd be a conversation we could take offline as well, but the state or the county, they might have a bit more funding to do that. But that's a great idea. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Is there anybody, any other representatives? Go on. Yeah, go on.
Hello, everybody. How are you this evening?
Doing good.
Perfect. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Moana. I'm with Senator Akilah Weber Pearson's office. Thank you for having me via virtual. Just a couple of things out of our office. I did send my report at the beginning of the month. So if you guys all need a copy, I can definitely send that back out. Just a couple of things. As you may or may not know, May is AANHPI Heritage Month. Our office almost every month honors a different topic. And for the month of May, it's AANHPI Heritage Month. You can go to our website and nominate a community leader or a small business in your community. May is also Small Business of the Year, where we will be taking nominations for that as well. Our office does a variety of community recognitions, and I would love for you folks to send in your nominations. Coming up, we have Pride Month, so that's LGBTQ+. If you know a community leader or a small business that encompasses that you want our office to highlight, please make sure you visit our website for that. Additionally, this month, on the 14th, we had our very first Senior Advisory Council meeting, and I must say it was pretty packed. About 50% of our council of 100 showed up. So for those of you who applied to be a part of our council and was able to attend, then I met you in person. Our next one will be scheduled for August, so keep on the lookout for that if you are a council member. Additionally, our young legislators program will be having their second meeting in about 2 weeks. And let's see how many folks from your community, how many students? We have about 20 students. And I believe about 4 of them are from your community. But we will be having our second meeting for that in about 2 weeks. And legislatively, we have 9 bills that are currently advancing to the Senate floor. And if you'd like information about all of those bills, I can definitely share that. And I believe that is all I have for you. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you. And if you want to post that in the chat, any of those links, be happy to share it.
Perfect. As always, I am here for you folks if you have any need for anything.
Okay, so
Coral, the representative from Todd Gloria's.
yeah, Coral posted the report from Todd Gloria's office.
Yeah.
About the budget. Okay. Lisa's final proposed budget.
There's the links, yeah.
Is there a link in there?
No.
Final plan is on June 10th. Miles, what's the next city council meeting on that? You know?
I don't know if I'll send it to you and.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely post it on the website in the hot topics section. Okay. Is that any other representatives on the call? Yeah, and we could take some of that and post it on the website too. Coral. Okay, does anybody want to say anything from the community? Yeah.
Stating a state update from the campus. The final study was completed. They are starting construction in January, putting in a bridge on Benton Parkway across the river. That will come out on Mission Valley, Camino del Rio. So that's been talked about for a long time. They will basically take the street there where there's my shoot, I guess. Go across. We believe that will alleviate a lot of traffic in Mission Valley. We'll see. And last thing, the fair starts in 2 weeks. I know it's crowded and it's a lot to do, but if anybody's interested, I saw a wave. The group that donated the wooden toys for the Father Joe's bags, they made fun little things. They have a booth at the Design and Wood exhibit, and every child that comes by the booth gets a free toy, any animal they want to pick, and they get to watch the saws and watch them make it, and they're invited to sign up for a woodworking free one-on-one class. So that's at the fair. They'll be there every day. The fair's open.
Okay.
I just want to announce that,
You want to come up?
what was that?
Do you want to come up?
Not really, but, Jane Harris is having, a town hall, and it's been scheduled for Thursday, May 29th. The only thing is it's not virtual, so you have to go in person. But it is about the parking, discontinuing the free parking on Sundays and how he's kind of not doing that and making sure that we can park for free on Sundays at the meter. Also the Balboa Park taking, charging us for that. Some other things, that the budget is cutting for our quality of life and,
What date is that?
it's on Thursday, the 31st. At 6 p.m. and it is at Columbus Hall, 4425 Home Avenue.
Could we,
Oh, 29, sorry, okay, 29, you're absolutely right.
do we have a link or anything that we could share with everyone?
I mean, I just have this flyer that's on my.
If you send that to us, we can blast it. Okay, and you guys, you wanted to say something?
The library is closed by the will be quick. We would like to share our experience. This is all about air, water, or everything about pollution. Come on. Hurry up. Okay. 2 minutes, it's sir. Okay. Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. Can we? She is now sick. Come on. Okay, I'll hold it for you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, your name?
My name is Breda Barber.
All right.
Victim 2 of ceramics kiln toxicity on 5200 block, Street View Drive, San Diego, California 92105. Deny City of San Diego.
Okay, start it now. Hurry up.
Primary.
Hurry up.
Primary business type, non-metallic, mineral product manufacturing, AKA ceramic manufacturing, and ceramics kiln industrial activity was approved beginning December 17, 1984.
Okay, that's enough. Let's be brief. This is not only for us. This is for all of us, San Diegans. I will read you these pollutant sources and impacts. Particulate matters, so fire, construction, off-road vehicle, road dust, etc. Asthma, these are the impact. Asthma, lung cancer, heart disease, dementia, which she is now suffering stage 2. Diesel particulate, those gas stations dispensing diesel from trucks, trains, buses, generators, asthma, lung cancer, lung disease, bladder cancer, irritation, etc. All about respiratory health impact. Volatile organic compounds, liquid use, you know, those at the laundry, those dry cleaning. Be careful. Asthma, cancer, irritation, inflammation, eyes, nose, throat, headaches, dizziness. We all have cancer, but they are quiet. Once we forget, neglect something, you know, carelessness, neglect. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. Airborne metals, manufacturing companies, you're next door. We have 40 ceramics artists, San Diego Pottery Guild. And they are all countywide or citywide. We have in our district 3. When you smell something, you ask, mind it, mind others' business for the sake of our survival. That's our thing to share to you, the lesson that we have been experiencing since 1984, now resided predominantly by Asian Americans and Latino. The white Caucasians are gone. And proximate to that ceramics home business, they're dead, 9 of them, including her late husband and wife. This is a warning. This is a caution. This is a prayer. So we will live longer like Santa Barbaranians, centenarians. Good luck, our fellow neighbors.
Can I say something? I saw you give Leo Rivera a lashing. Everybody was walking out of the city council meeting and you guys came up and I was enthralled by what you said. And it's so right that he's on the pollution board. He lived in City Heights and what did he do? He moved to Kensington. What a shame, what a shame.
I cannot answer that one, but
thank you for doing it.
please look around your neighbors, because that's the key to survival. Clean air, clean water, clean food, clean and safe neighborhood. That is second. Thank you.
Your air purifier.
Thank you. And
There's someone on.
Montgomery State, we give you one, just for you. Be quiet, don't tell it to anyone. This is not the solving problem skill that they should possess. The root cause, rules by the politicians. Imagine they allowed it in the residential zone designated. R1, single family. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. All right. Kathleen, had a question or comment?
I
I did want to make a comment. First, I'd like to thank Parita and Javier. They are intrepid and they have come to so many of the council meetings, and the city council has continues to, instead of just responding to them and doing what's right and changing the zone so that they do not have a commercial enterprise ruining their air quality, they just ignore them. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to say, but thank you to Joni Mitchell for summarizing the meeting at Land Use and Housing so well on ADUs. It was a very long day, and appreciate 164 attendees at that meeting. And hopefully the pressure that will come to bear to make sure that the city stops ignoring its residents and favoring private industry developers over the community priorities. So if they keep looking to wherever they can raise tax money, and already the residents are burdened with the highest energy costs, transportation costs, housing costs, food costs. And yet they're still scrounging around for more ways to charge residents, whether it's trash fees or raising the parking on our already paid for public property, or marijuana, using the marijuana industry to collect taxes and they're not acknowledging the downside of the more pot that is sold. Yes, they make more taxes, but it is the young people that are the future customers of this industry, just like the tobacco industry. So they want a tourist-friendly city. And when you drive into the city from the airport, you do not want to see marijuana billboards all over the place. What that seems to indicate is this city is open for drug business. It is not a welcoming, community-friendly kind of atmosphere when you see those kinds of billboards. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thanks, Kathleen. Okay, I think it's everybody. Well, thanks so much for coming tonight. We had Larry, I forgot, yeah. So here's our new librarian, Larry. So please get your library card if you haven't already.
If you have any questions on services or anything, set it up.
Who's your library card?
It's $1, but we recommend downloading the SDPL to go app and it has a digital card on there. But if you and you can get the Pottery one and still get the Pottery one, and you get updated too. So you can always get the Pottery one or any of our exclusive library cards. Refreshment cards are $1, but it always supports our system.
Thanks so much for letting us stay a little later today. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks so much for coming. I appreciate the attendance. Tell all your friends, neighbors. Sign up to our newsletter.